What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. We are, as I'm recording this, we are approaching day 3 of the NFL Draft, which means that day 1 and 2 have just commenced. The time for speculation after months and months and months of draft grades and highlight packages and all these possibilities and mocks are finally over. We have now selected our first 3 picks of the NFL Draft. I'm going to do what I've done the last 2 years, and that's break down my draft videos. Today's video is going to cover picks 1 through 3, so the first 2 days, the first 3 Steelers picks, and then my next video, which is going up in a day or two, is going to cover rounds 4 through 7, so day 3. So this video, I want to go ahead and cover the first 3 picks. If you guys want to see my draft wish list of who I wanted, who I mocked, and who I speculated, and the guys that I think we should and shouldn't take in the draft, those videos are all up on this channel, so go back and see how right or wrong I was. But now is the time to cover the actual draft. So Thursday night, Pittsburgh picked in round 1 at pick 20, and they picked Pickett. We picked Pickett. Pittsburgh quarterback Kenny Pickett stays in Pittsburgh at pick 20. Now this is very, very interesting because at pick 20, we didn't think a lot of the first-round quarterbacks, at least the ones with value, would be coming around to us. So I obviously was one of the biggest naysayers when it came to the quarterbacks in this class. Not a fan of these quarterbacks this year. It's a weak quarterback class to me. It is a low ceiling quarterback class in my opinion. But there was all kinds of talk about Pittsburgh going after a mobile quarterback like a Malik Willis or a Desmond Ridder. Now, this is one of the negatives, but I saw in mock drafts, in several mock drafts that I participated in, I saw Malik Willis going as high as 2 to the Lions, and I saw Kenny Pickett going as high as 6 to the Panthers. So we didn't think either of these guys would even be around at 20. There was a lot of talk about us possibly trading up, which I was against, to get a quarterback. By the time we picked at pick 20, every quarterback was still on the board, sitting there at 20. Now, as one of the negatives for Kenny Pickett, we might have been able to get him in the 3rd round. So as I watched day 2, the first other quarterback besides us going at 20 that was taken was like mid 3rd round was Desmond Ridder at to Atlanta a few picks before us in the 3rd round. So Malik Willis and all the other quarterbacks were still there in the 3rd round. So thinking about getting this guy in the 1st when we actually could have got him in the 3rd, that's hindsight. No one knew that. But it just shows how low these teams in this draft value these quarterbacks when the first one besides us was taken mid 3rd round. So if we had gotten a quarterback in the 3rd round, very good move, very high value. We only have 2 other quarterbacks on this roster. For us to fill this roster out with a 3rd round quarterback after getting 2 of our needs higher would have been extreme value. To get one here at 20 is interesting, especially when all the hype was talked about Malik Willis. Everyone said, oh, the Steelers want Willis, Tomlin wants Willis, Tomlin loves Willis, and if we don't get Willis, we're going to get Ridder. No one expected to see us take a quarterback in Kenny Pickett. So if you would have told me a few days ago that Malik Willis was sitting there at 20, I would have said Pittsburgh probably takes him because they liked him so much but didn't think he'd be there. So the fact that Malik Willis was sitting there at 20 and Pittsburgh took a quarterback but wasn't him is pretty interesting. Now, to look at Pickett as himself, obviously as a big positive, he is a great story. This doesn't affect football really, but his story's great. Hometown kid, played his football at Pitt, 5 minutes from the Steelers facility. Very likable, very high quality character guy, works really hard, likable, charismatic kid. That's an obvious fit. Pitt going to Pitt makes a lot of sense, right down the road, right? Obviously, he's a very mobile quarterback. He moves around very well. He's probably, aside from Malik Willis, he's probably the most mobile quarterback in this draft. He actually had a college rule created all for himself, the fake slide. He got out of the pocket and did a fake slide one time and then tucked around and ran to the end zone. So the fake slide rule was put into effect for Pickett. So he's very mobile. I don't put a lot of stock into the small hands thing. I don't give a shit about that. Everyone's looking at the small hands, measuring his hand length and all that stuff. That doesn't matter. Can you hold a football? As long as you can pump fake and grip a football, you're fine. I don't care about his hand size. Doesn't matter to me. But he's got a lot of measurables. He's a pretty good competitor. Like I said, he's very mobile, and he's going to bring us some of the things that Big Ben did in terms of running around the pocket, extending the play, He can play backyard football. He's probably the best thrower against his body and thrower on the run of the entire draft. And then as far as completion percentage and accuracy, he's the most accurate quarterback in this draft. Again, I don't like any of the quarterbacks in this draft. I would not have taken that selection here. But if you look at Pickett, again, he's going to do a lot of what Ben does. He's not as strong as Ben, and his arm is definitely not as strong as Ben. But he's accurate on the run. He can throw on the move. He can run around and extend the play and avoid sacks. We made a lot of, big-time quality wins and big plays by extending the play like Kenny Pickett can do. Knocks on Kenny Pickett, in spite of the fact that he's pretty accurate compared to the other quarterbacks in this draft, his arm strength is not great. I saw a lot of balls going down the field to Mario Addison, where he's floating the balls. They're a little behind. They're a little late. He can throw the ball downfield, but it kind of hangs in the air a lot. He doesn't have the strongest arm. That can be worked on, obviously. You can work on that at the NFL level, and the coaches we have here can do that. So that's a big knock on him right now, especially when we have guys who are downfield threats like Claypool and Deontay and somebody else that I'll talk about here in a second. But the arm strength is an issue to me. Also, just the strength in general, breaking tackles. I don't see him being the strongest quarterback. I like Willis was a better tackle breaker with his feet, and Matt Corral was a better tackle breaker with his body. Pickett is not the strongest tackle breaker, but he can run, but he can't really break tackles when he gets hit as much. One positive thing is that Pickett is probably the best fit for Matt Corral's system. Matt Corral used to work at, I'm sorry, not Matt Corral, Matt Canada's system. Matt Corral's a quarterback. Matt Canada used to work at Pitt, and he was instrumental in bringing Kenny Pickett to Pitt. Didn't play with him there, but he's a very big fan of Pickett, and he works his offense in a similar style that Pitt works their offense. So now we're in a situation where the offensive coordinator knows Pickett, works in Pickett's style, and is a fan of his. So they have time, especially with us bringing in Mitch Trubisky to be the starter. Pickett now can work on the intangibles. He can work on being able to maintain the accuracy, working on the arm strength, working on the body strength to break tackles to go with his agility. And he can sit on the bench for a year if we need to, because we have a veteran quarterback that already wins games in Mitch Trubisky. So he's coming into a good situation. Hometown guy. The problem is, if Mitch Trubisky starts his first 7 games with a losing record, you know how the Pittsburgh fans are. They're going to be clamoring for the hometown boy Kenny Pickett to get in there. If we have a rookie that was drafted highly on the bench, they're going to want to see him on the field. So Trubisky has to start off winning his games, because if he comes into the first 7 games with a losing record, they're going to want to see Kenny Pickett in there early. So it's a good situation for him to be in. I'm going to give this pick a C+, because we did have to get another quarterback. And even though I think this wasn't the year for it, we did draft a hometown guy who's favorable to our system, who can move around and do similar stuff to Ben as far as extending the play. So while it's not a bad pick, I don't like the value at the pick, especially when we could have got him later in the draft, but we didn't know that. So we got a guy. We got a guy at quarterback now who can sit behind our veteran and who's a hometown likable guy who's got some intangibles, and we'll see how this one plays out. So he's going to probably replace Mason Rudolph as our backup for right now, and we'll see how Trubisky does to start the season. Otherwise, we'll see Pickett early on the field, but you don't want to see this early. So I'm going to give this pick a C+, and we'll see where it goes. Second round, pick 52, we picked another pick. We picked Pickett in the first round. We picked Pickens in the second round. George Pickens, wide receiver out of Georgia. I like this guy a lot. He's got a lot of length. He's like 6'3". He's a physical, strong wide receiver. He is the son of Carl Pickens, who played in the NFL, I think, for Tennessee, back when it was Houston probably. Played for them for quite a while. Very good hands, just like his dad. I like George Pickens a lot. Again, a big school guy, played for Georgia, played against really good competition. He's gotten better at going across the field. He's got fast feet for a guy his size. He's got separation on the deep ball, and he's a very good hands catcher. He goes up and catches the ball with his hands. He's tall, he can jump, and he's a big target. He reminds me a lot of Chase Claypool. He's a little better, I think, as far as a route runner than Claypool, and I think his hands are a little better. But as far as being able to be a big downfield threat, have a big body, be able to catch 50-50 balls, which Pittsburgh throws up a lot, and being able to catch with his hands, that reminds me a lot of Chase Claypool. So at the very least here, I think he's going to be a Claypool upgrade, if not more. I think I would have taken Alec Pierce in this spot, who was there, who was picked right after him to the Green Bay Packers, who's a slot guy, who also has strong hands, I think that would have been my pick at this point. But still, you can't complain about this. Maybe he wasn't the exact receiver I would have wanted here, but I like Pickens a lot. The one negative is he came off of an injury this year, and this wasn't his best year. He didn't get to play very much this year, but yet last year he had very, very big productivity and just showed crazy intangibles. Again, fast feet, getting better at running routes, very good deep ball guy, very good red zone guy. He's going to help us in a lot of situations. 3rd and 4th and short, goal line offense, which we weren't always the best at, gives us a big target, good hands down the field. Hands is the guy we need. He can bail us out on 3rd downs. We need that right now. With Claypool being kind of one-dimensional and Deontay dropping a lot of balls, Pickens is a good fit for us. Again, maybe he's not the slot guy I expected, but the team says he can play in the slot as well. I see him more as an outside guy. But I think if you have... Because Claypool or Deontay can play in the slot as well. I think having Deontay and Pickens on the outside and putting Claypool on the inside or vice versa, I think could really work for us. That's a lot of size and a lot of fast feet. And I think that could help possibly Claypool improve his route running. So I like Pickens here a lot. Again, coming off of an injury last season, did play toward the end of the year, made some plays in the bowl game. So I like him. Again, he is a bigger bodied guy, so I hope that he's not injury prone. That's the one knock, but I like him a lot for this pick. I'm going to give this pick a B. I think this is a B pick for me. Pickens really fills that role as our 3rd wide receiver, and I think we have a nice triumvirate now of receivers you can trust going into the season, along with adding Miles Boykin to the roster. So you got 4 guys now who really play like outside guys, but they're all physical, and we're improving our hands and our goal line situation here. Our 3rd round pick is probably my favorite pick of the entire draft for us so far. Round 3, pick 84, we go with DeMarvin Leal, the D tackle / D lineman from Texas A&M. I like this pick a lot. I had him as the 3rd or 4th best defensive tackle in this draft. He's an interesting pick. He's got 2 sides to the coin as well. He is a kind of a smaller guy for D tackle, but he's still a big guy for D end. He played on both sides for Texas A&M. He played on the outside and the inside. His technique is an outside guy. He plays like a defensive end. He swims a lot, spins a lot, and goes to the outside of his blocker to get to the quarterback. And that makes him really hard to defend inside because he has quick outside moves. He's got probably the fastest first step out of any D tackle in this draft, possibly besides one of the top 3 or 4 guys. But he's got a very fast first step. He's super quick at D tackle, and he's going to terrorize the quarterback. He's kind of tall, so he can bat some balls, which Tyson Alualu and Cam do a lot of. So he's going to fit in with batting balls in our system. Again, it's interesting because he can play either position, but he's kind of small for the inside, but he plays more like an outside guy. So he's going to give you the outside moves, but he plays on the inside. So the one knock on him is that he's both strong and fast, which is a major positive. He's got a strong frame and he's super quick. He's very athletic, but being undersized for D tackle, he runs past guys a lot and he doesn't always finish his tackles in the run game. So he's not super effective as a run stopper, which Pittsburgh does need. Pittsburgh fell off at run stopper this year. But I think having a DeMarvin Leal, along with our pick from last year, the D end Isaiah Loudermilk, who's a big, strong guy on the outside, I think that leads for a very good backup defensive line, along with Chris Wormley and Montravis Adams. We've got 4 guys now, including 2 draft picks in the last 2 years, who have a lot of strength and speed as a backup D line. So if we have Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and Tyson Alualu as the starters, and then guys like Leal and Loudermilk getting younger on the backside as the incumbents, the next offensive line coming up, I think that is a nice depth piece for us. And again, we needed more depth along both sides of the offensive line, and Leal can play outside or inside. So he's a nice, versatile piece who I think is going to fit nicely for us as a D tackle. What he needs to do is get a little bit more bulkiness on him. He needs to gain a little bit of weight, and he needs to become a better run stuffer. But he gets a lot of presence in the backfield. He's batting balls. He's hitting quarterbacks. He's getting a lot of sacks. People said that his productivity last year wasn't great for Texas A&M. He's still got 8.5 sacks. 8.5 sacks at D tackle is pretty damn good. If he gets that in his rookie season in the NFL, I'll be thrilled. So even for a down season last year, I thought he was pretty good. He's got to get more consistent, and he's got to tackle the running backs a little better. But I like the emergence now with Loudermilk and Leal Playing in there is the young guys on the line, along with Wormley and Montravis Adams, who are the veteran guys. So we have a nice depth piece now that can play end or tackle for us. And I'm a big fan of this guy. I see a lot of intangibles. I see a lot of good pass rush. I like what he's doing here. I'm going to give this pick A minus. A minus on there. So overall, in the first 2 days, we did really well. Again, if you could have swapped the Pickens and Pickett picks, try saying that 5 times fast, I would have felt better about getting a wide receiver in the first round. By the time we picked anyway, there weren't as many wide receivers out there. So we got a really good high-end wide receiver at pick 2. We got our quarterback, for better or worse. We've got a young hometown quarterback who fits our system at pick 1. And now at pick 3, we got our D tackle to get a lot of depth and possible starter for our defensive line, depending on who comes back next year. So we got 3 of our major needs picked up in the first 3 picks. And now we're picking, pretty much as I speak here, the 4th round is starting. So we are picking in the 4th round, and then we have 1 6th and 2 7s, depending on if we trade at all. So we got 4 picks, including a 4th rounder coming up. We still have to address probably corner/safety. We want to get a DB. You want to get another outside corner at some point in this draft. You want to get another safety in this draft to possibly take the place of Terrell Edmonds after this season. And you also want to address wide receiver if you can. Maybe get another guy like a speedster in the late rounds. That's not really super important. What you do want to address, though, is offensive line. You want to get a no tackle at some point. And you also want to get a backup running back for Najee Harris. There are several really good 6th and 7th round running back possibilities for this team, like Tyler Batty, like the North Carolina kid. There's I think the BYU guy as well. There are several possible good looks at running back. So yeah, I would say prioritize offensive tackle, backup running back, corner, and safety in those last 4 picks. And if you got a chance to get another speedy wide receiver on the outside from a small school, Pittsburgh does that well too. So make these 4 picks count, even if you got to trade back and get an extra pick. I like what Pittsburgh is doing so far. We addressed 3 major needs. What do you think? What's your favorite and least favorite pick of this draft? Who would you have picked differently so far in the first 3 rounds? Tell me in the comments below, and please like, share, and subscribe this video if you guys like these Steeler deep dives. And I'll come back to you guys in a day or 2 with the rounds 4 through 7 picks as well, along with the undrafted free agents. And I'll let you know how this roster is shaping out once everything is said and done. Go Steelers. I'll talk to you soon.